Thank you so very much. On behalf of the City of Elyria, we really appreciate your interest in the state of our city, both in 2013 and the upcoming year of 2014. The first time I spoke to you I was in office just a few weeks, and I was still trying to figure out where we kept the paper clips at City Hall. Last year, I was in office for a year and 2 weeks, and I had a much better idea of what some of the challenges were and some of the opportunities. And this year I'm speaking to you from a very different place, and that is, we've got it. And I want to tell you that we don't pretend to have all the answers, but we feel as though we really know our city at this point. We know the opportunities, we know the challenges, and I'm going to be talking to you a lot about creating more opportunities together today. But I couldn't do it without an amazing staff, and I would like all the employees of the City of Elyria to please stand for a moment. I asked one table, but I know there's a few other individuals as well. And we have, I believe we have some City Council people here as well, too, if you would stand as well. Please recognize them. These are individuals, a combination of my senior staff and department heads and council members who are all a critical part of our team. And we certainly could not do it without their help. My husband was hoping to come today, but here's a news scoop. The Browns just fired their entire front office, and he is at the press conference right now. So. Please forgive me, I didn't circulate a lot. I am a little under the weather, so if I bear with my voice a little bit, but I'm going to give you your $20 worth. So, if this is not apropos, I don't know what is. We have been struggling like everybody else with this cold weather, and we'll talk a little bit about the implications for the city. But we do, excuse me, believe that significant opportunities are found in the greatest times of difficulty, and we've seen some of those. We do have strategic goals in the City of Elyria that we work towards, and I am going to be talking with you a little bit about how we're trying to achieve those goals, restoring fiscal stability and improving service performance, making Elyria safer, promoting economic vitality, improving our quality of life, strengthening our neighborhoods, revitalizing our business districts, rebuilding our human capital, developing a deserving image of Elyria, and finally building trust and community support. As you know, we conducted a voluntary performance audit with the state of Ohio. It was released in May of this year, 2013, and just a little bit of background on that. Every year the city goes through an audit, but a performance audit is a little bit different than a financial audit. It does look at how the city's departments are performing, and it benchmarks the city's departments and the city overall against other like cities. And we did this on a voluntary basis. We asked the state to come in and do it because we wanted a third-party perspective about how the City of Elyria was performing. Excuse me, they came back with 23 recommendations with cost-saving implications and another 17 non-financial performance recommendations. Of the 23 recommendations, 7 are subject to collective bargaining and 6 impact services and enterprise functions. So those are functions outside of the general fund. Since May, my administration has implemented adjustments in whole or part on 6 of the financial recommendations, and we continue to execute more as negotiations with the city's 6 unions move forward. We are in the process of completing 13 of the non-financial recommendations. So, excuse me, overall we think the performance audit has been very helpful to us as a city. If you look at the 2003 savings from the performance audit alone, we've seen $743,107 in non-enterprise fund savings, another $118,624 in enterprise funds just since May. If you look at the savings and combine that with last year, we did, as we went through the performance audit, we didn't wait to make some adjustments as we saw opportunities. And we were able to make $1 million to $713,000 in savings last year. So when you combine that with this year's overall savings of $860,000, so far we're over $1.8 million. And that's in the last 24 months. So that sounds like a lot of money, and we're doing the best we can, but just remember, and you'll see this in one of the slides coming up, the city of Elyria is operating with less money than ever before because, like all municipalities, and I see my friend Chase here from the city of Lorraine, we're operating with less state tax money and a decline of the local government fund. Those two funds alone have reduced the city's budget by over $1.7 million. So everything that we've done to try to save money has been taken up by the reductions in those two areas. And our goal, obviously, is to continue to work towards additional savings. Some of the example savings you can see. We do have a new energy conservation management program. We entered into an agreement with North Shore for both gas and electricity. And these are for our larger users, largely our plants. So it's wastewater, water treatment plants, those facilities that use a large amount of energy. We've already saved $316,376. So if you work for or on a board of a large organization here in Lorain County and you haven't already done that, we'd be happy to share information because it really is significant cost savings. We have rebid our life insurance contract. We've been working very hard to reduce sick leave in the city of Elyria, and if you look at the reduction in numbers, we've seen about a 25% decrease since 2010. We do that by working very closely with our employees, our department heads, asking for regular reports, and really having personal conversations with our employees. We do have some new health insurance strategies that are being very helpful. We just recently conducted a dependent audit in the city of Elyria, and that basically was done to identify individuals who should not or don't qualify for being part of our health insurance program. In addition, we do have some savings through prescription drug reimbursement. So far we've been able to save about $212,000. Excuse me. The city is also seeing some increased cost associated with the Affordable Care Act, and so some of that is anticipated to kind of suck up that $212,000, but that's part of our operating costs. We have been able to reduce our staff in a number of different areas, and these were all part of the performance audit recommendations in the areas of cemetery, engineering, utility, and line maintenance. If you recall, excuse me, we didn't have a human resource department when we started, and one of the things that we've been able to do is hire an individual who is in charge of our HR, and we are in the process of updating job descriptions. We are putting together a performance measurement system against our job descriptions. We didn't have a technology plan in the city of Elyria either, and one of the things that we've been able to do, and I'll go into a little bit more detail, is because of the insurance demutualization money that we were able to garner from the state, which was a big surprise, we were able to do some things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do, and one of them is be able to purchase new software that I'll talk about in a little bit. And then another recommendation from the performance audit was the fact that the city didn't really have a capital budget. So I did spend some time remedying that personally myself, and all of our department heads were asked to respond to a matrix that has prioritized all of the capital needs in the city. And just to give you an example, the total police and fire departments, $3.2 million of capital needs over the next 5 years. That's just 2 departments. The city's budget right now has no capital expenses in it because there isn't any money. And it's a huge challenge. You can't run police, fire, other departments, street departments without equipment. So Another recommendation in the performance audit was we found out we were losing water in the city of Elyria. And largely it's been because we have old water meters. So we have started a 3-year process of replacing both of our residential and our commercial water meters. We're able to do this basically in anticipation of future revenue. So we're not spending money to buy new meters. We're actually paying for the meters with the anticipated revenue that we're actually going to be saving from the lost water. We have eliminated commercial sanitation. We were losing about $120,000 a year on commercial sanitation. So we have eliminated commercial sanitation. We're right now going through a cost-benefit analysis for our Parks and Recreation Department. One of the things we want to do is identify our priorities. We want to strengthen our Parks and Rec Department, but we know that we need to make some decisions about how to use our facilities. So you'll see that process coming up in terms of some public input in the next few months. And then finally, we've updated our fleet management policy. Basically, what that means is all of our fleet, all of our vehicles are being processed through our Sentinel Maintenance Garage now. We have standardization of parts and the purchase of different types of vehicles so that it makes it more cost effective to maintain those vehicles and purchase them. Excuse me. Customer service is top of mind for us, and thanks to my safety service director, Mrs. Sawerka, she was able to bring to the city of Elyria a trademarked customer service program from the Cleveland Clinic that she helped implement there. We were the only and first municipality, but not the last, for the clinic to come in and make some adjustments for municipal government. And they'll be using it and marketing it and actually selling it throughout the country. But we have trained all of our employees in this customer service program that emphasizes hear, empathize, apologize, respond, and thank. And we are actually seeing some real benefits to it. We used trained ambassadors, sort of a train-the-trainer model, so we were able to limit expenses on it. And we now are getting fewer customer complaints and more customer compliments. So we do think it's really an important program and something that we really want to continue. And our employees have really embraced it. So I can't say enough about that. Budget stabilization measures. We're not going to talk about money all the time, but it's an important topic for us. Excuse me. We've made about $1.7 million in reductions, again, to compensate for the loss of the estate tax and the reduction of the local government fund. Last year, we were able to negotiate employee wage freezes, which assisted us. We worked very hard and successfully passed Issue 5. Issue 5 was the temporary income tax that represents 20% of the city's general fund budget. And that was really the first step in our overall budget stabilization process. We knew that we had to pass that, and last year I showed you a graph to demonstrate what would happen if we didn't. So I can't thank you enough for those of you who participated in helping us do that. And then, of course, you probably heard about our bonus. Because of a insurance demutualization fund settlement that no one ever saw coming or expected, the city of Elyria did get the largest windfall in the history of the state of Ohio at $3.4 million. And while that sounds like a lot of money and it was needed and appreciated, we did make a strategic decision not to use that money for ongoing personnel costs because we knew we could not sustain those expenses. That's one of the problems that we see in the city of Elyria's budget is, in large part, the budget is being sustained by temporary money, and we're trying to get away from that. So we used the decision rule on the money that we would use the money for one-time expenses that would have a long-term exponential impact on the city. And some of the things that we are using that money for, again, the New World software system. It's hard to believe, but believe it or not, the city of Elyria was on 23 different software platforms. And when you have 23 different software platforms, you have lots of efficiencies across departments. They can't talk to each other, you can't share information, and many of them were 10 to 12 years old. So this is really going to change how we do business, and we're very excited about it. It's not only going to improve communication, but it will create lots of efficiencies that didn't exist before. We have made some upgrades in security to City Hall. We used the money to pave some residential streets as well. And excuse me, we did need a match for some major highway projects in the city of Elyria that otherwise would have required us to take money out of the general fund, which we simply didn't have. So really the windfall was a godsend, and it did allow us to do some things that otherwise we would have never been able to do. There's some ongoing fiscal challenges, however, though. We do have an expiration of our federal stimulus money, including our SAFER grant that funds 23 positions in our Elyria Fire Department. We have the expiration of a federal stimulus COPS grant that funds 4 positions in our police department. Both of those expire at the end of this year. We have experienced the closing of the Elyria jail by the county. We have explored whether or not we could possibly reopen the jail, because it will have an impact on the number of spots available to us in the city of Elyria for criminals. And the price tag to reopen the jail under the county is beginning at $500,000 if they were willing to do it. We do have a general fund, as I said, with extremely limited funds for capital expenses. And then the implications for that are pretty serious. And I'll show you a graph in a minute, but just to give you an idea, if we did nothing today, and we see the expiration of these stimulus funds for both police and fire, we do have to maintain police for a year after the grant as a stipulation of the federal grant. But just in that first year, we'll be looking at a deficit of $1.34 million. It's the equivalent of an additional 27 positions for a projected 50-person layoff with no additional funds. And so while we took the first step in terms of our financial stabilization with the passage of Issue 5, we have by no means solved the financial challenges in the city of Elyria. What are we going to do about it? Well, obviously, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to continue implementing cost reductions and efficiencies as recommended in the performance audit. We are in negotiations with 4 of our unions right now, so we're hopeful that we will make some inroads in those areas. We are looking at increasing fees across departments, and we will be reviewing the water and sewer rate studies. We have identified some deficiencies in our water and sewer rate studies. There were some things that were not anticipated in those studies, and we are reviewing those right now. We may be looking at considering a change in the tax credit structure in the city of Elyria as early as November, or possibly a tax increase or a combination of both. That determination hasn't been made yet. I have presented 4 different sample scenarios to council, and that will be a collective decision, obviously, among the administration and council. But again, we do have some financial challenges, and I don't believe that the city of Elyria can operate with 23 less firefighters and 4 less police officers. We also, just as a reminder, last year I talked about some of the cost reductions that we had made while waiting to, some of those cost reductions my administration had identified even before the performance audit, but we made over $1 million of cost savings last year. So when you combine that with the additional 860 this year, we're really running out of places to make additional reductions without devastating service delivery implications. This gives you an idea of our overall general fund breakdown. As you can see, excuse me, income tax makes up about 68%. Property tax 4%, non-revenue 4%, the local government fund about 5%, charges for services 6%, and then everything else is basically 3% or lower. So heavy reliance on income tax. This is what's happening. And you can see from this graph that the projections that our finance director has made with us, we are doing a lot more with a lot less. And again, there are some serious financial ramifications for the city associated with our safety forces especially. But it's not just contained to safety. Even when safety is our first priority, and even when we do everything we can to keep those cuts as far away from safety, we're going to have serious implications across every department in the city. And there's nothing we can do about that. When you're looking at reducing that amount of money, it's a very huge challenge. So again, this is what it looks like right now if we do nothing. So we need to grow our tax base, without a doubt. And just to give you an idea, we have many partners in the city of Elyria, and I'll talk about some of those, but we are working very hard to be part of that overall conversation, not only in our city, but in our region. The philosophy on growing the tax base and job creation has changed a lot, not only at the local level, but at the state level. Jobs Ohio, the Ohio Department of Development, all of the regional economic development organizations and the local economic organizations are taking a different approach now. We used to focus a lot of resources on trying to attract new companies into Lorain County, into Ohio, and all the research basically says that most of the jobs are going to be created through job retention and expansion of existing companies. So it's not that we don't welcome the additional economic development benefits of outside companies, but there is a shift in the state, there's a shift in the region, and there's a shift in the county and the city in terms of how we're treating this whole thrust of economic development. We are working very closely with our partners. I sit on the boards of a number of these different organizations, and sometimes you wonder when you do that whether it's ever going to make a difference, and today I can tell you that I have one example of how it is really going to make a difference, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But these are all the organizations that we work with. Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Initiative is a regional planning organization for, I believe, 12, maybe 13 counties now. Team Lorain County Chamber, GLIDE, the Lorain County Growth Partnership, Team NEO, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, the Northeast Ohio Area Coordinating Agency, Ohio Department of Development Services, Jobs Ohio, and the Urban Land Institute. We've been working hard to become much more familiar with the existing businesses and what some of their barriers are. I did hire an economic development specialist to be my right hand along with our community development director. And he started in October, so he's gotten his feet wet a little bit, but we've been out making calls on area companies to really figure out what their biggest challenges are and what the city can do to help. You know, cities can't directly create jobs, but we can certainly try to create the environment for jobs. And that means the infrastructure that's necessary to support business. It means the tax incentives sometimes that are necessary to help jumpstart business. It means being the facilitator and connector to a lot of these organizations and connecting people to training and other opportunities. So we're trying to do all those things. We have been operating without a business development plan in the city of Elyria. We've never had an economic development plan. And one of the things we were able to do was we have leveraged funds for our first market analysis. It's a $93,000 project, of which $75,000 will be coming from the Northeast Ohio Area Coordinating Agency. And we'll be putting together a market analysis for our, both our downtown and our Midway business districts and our Cleveland business districts. So it's a start. And we are doing that in conjunction to leverage some major projects that I'll talk about. So there is some hope here. We do have, excuse me, a partnership with NASA's Office of Technology Partnerships and Venture Development. We did, in talking with a number of our industries, find out what some of their barriers were. And we have been able to match them up with NASA officials to see if there's NASA technology that can be helpful to them. We have a new partnership with the Urban Land Institute. Members of the Urban Land Institute are volunteers, largely from Cuyahoga County, who are a combination of developers and planners and people with means who willingly and voluntarily come into distressed downtowns and work with mayors and others to share best practices, help us find solutions to some of our most vexing problems. And I will tell you, one of Elyria's most vexing problems are very large commercial properties that are vacant. And we have been working with the banks on 3 of those properties in particular. So we are trying to work through that, and we've been able to link back to this group, and they're helping us market some of those properties right now. So we do have some plans for mixed-use development in the city of Elyria, and they've been very helpful in trying to help us link back to some of these individuals. We do have a new set of economic development tools that we've been able to develop in the past several months. And I'll talk about those a little bit, but briefly, we have a new job creation opportunity credit, and it has incentives for both industrial, downtown, and the Midway areas. We have a new revolving loan fund, and that is matched up with some of the previous tools that we have. We continue to revise the design review process to make Elyria a little bit more business friendly through our planning commission. In the last 12 months, we've responded to 32 serious economic development inquiries, and right now 11 of those are active. We will be sharing an economic development plan in March with goals and objectives, and it will evolve because our market analysis won't be done by March, but it will help inform that, and it will continue to grow. And then again, we were able to leverage money to be able to fund all this. This is a big project. We tried, can I have some water? We tried very hard, and we're successful in moving up the 49th Street Bridge, Route 57 reconfiguration project. Thank you. This is a $28 million project that wasn't scheduled for 10 years. And we worked with ODOT to move up that project, and we have leveraged $28 million. The project is going to start in 2014. We have been very busy with the acquisition of easement property with ODOT and Cohen and Company, and excuse me, I can't thank the businesses in the Midway area enough for their cooperation. They know that there's going to be some temporary disruption, but the long-term benefits of this project are certainly worth it. And I know Mark Bressler's here and others in the area, and they've been very helpful and cooperative, and we appreciate it. But City of Elyria's got a $1.8 million investment in this. It will not only remedy a high crash zone, this is one of the highest crash zones in the state of Ohio. So if you've experienced, and I'm sure you have, the weave patterns on Route 57, this will alleviate that. It will improve access to I-90 and the Ohio Turnpike, improve access to Midway Mall, hotels, restaurants, retail areas, and the industrial park, improve the aesthetics to the major entry to the city. A lot of people don't know this, but it's going to open up 140 acres for future development. And there's local and regional opportunities in construction, and hopefully it'll be a catalyst for jobs and mall area redevelopment. And we do have, again, that redevelopment plan being revised as part of this market analysis. What is it actually going to do from an infrastructure standpoint? It's going to incorporate a diamond interchange. It removes the 49th Street Bridge overpass. It widens State Route 57 to 6 lanes between the Turnpike and I-90. It widens Midway Boulevard to 4 lanes, and it will bring Griswold Road to current design standards, add sidewalks, improve utilities, and locate frontage roads. We want to capitalize on this, obviously, so we have started to work with them all to help and some of those area businesses to create the Midway Merchants Association. It will be our first one, and we want to help support the businesses in that area. Properties are being sought in speculation of new business opportunities. I will tell you that people are speculating, and I think that's good news. Some of the property has already been bought, and we are actually already working with a developer on a project that we anticipate moving forward in 2016. Again, we'll be completing the market analysis to help new property owners in making business decisions. And finally, a step forward, we have been able to convince the company that owns the former Alzado's buildings to take it down in 2014. And we are working on the Mountain Jacks building as well. So we've been able to be successful with one, and we do have some alternatives with the Mountain Jacks building. We can go one of three directions. One is redevelopment, one is a staging site for the current construction project, and there's actually a third alternative as well. So we are working through that, but hopefully by the time I do this next year, we will have figured that one out too. This is a big one, and I want to talk a little bit. We have been in conversation with the county, and I know Mr. Kalo's here today, but we know that the city of Elyria's downtown revitalization plan would be helped greatly if we were able to return passenger rail to downtown Elyria. And if you remember when the New York Times article came out, it really talked about how Elyria was a great American rail city. Well, I took those articles and I mailed them to both the president of Amtrak and Norfolk Southern. And they responded, and the county responded positively. And the end result of that is the county has been working through the process of working with both Amtrak and Norfolk Southern on the architectural and design of a passenger rail platform, which is missing, and that is preventing us from returning passenger rail to the New York Central, or the former New York Central rail station. The county had some money left from the previous project, and I know the county administrator has been exploring other alternative funding sources. In the meantime, we're not the only ones who see potential in this, and I want to talk a little bit about why there is such great potential in this. But one of the boards I sit on, the Northeast Ohio Area Coordinating Agent, or not NOACA, the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Initiative, one of the recommendations in our final report was to build, to really focus on building consensus for communities to restore passenger rail. And we have started a conversation with, it's the Chicago Amtrak East Coast rail system that goes directly through the communities of Toledo, Sandusky, Elyria, and Cleveland. And we met on January 23rd, and we are trying to build consensus for a rail corridor application to the federal government. There is some new money suddenly available from the federal government, and there's actually two pots of money, and we believe that if we apply jointly, that we have a much better chance applying as a corridor than we would as an individual community. So we're working hard to try to make that happen. If things come together with our MPOs and our counties in those areas, we could be looking at signing a memorandum of understanding that would allow us to apply for this joint federal money and really marry a corridor project between Toledo, Sandusky, Elyria, and Cleveland to give us a great deal of power. Why do we want to do this? Well, there's nothing more prevalent right now than the conversation you saw on TV last week about United Airlines pulling out of Hopkins Airport. And this is just reflective of what's going on all over the country. But air travel is declining because of the consolidations. And also, excuse me, a number of these transportation centers, like the one in Elyria, are seeing less bus travel because you've got large express bus companies who are going from one point to another, and they're missing some of these smaller communities. So basically what's happening is air travel is declining and rail travel is increasing in some of the Amtrak sweet spots. And so we really see this as an opportunity. If you look at the different Amtrak stations in Northeast Ohio, now you know if you get on an Amtrak train, you're doing it in the middle of the night. Amazing. You're doing it in the middle of the night, and we're still increasing by 91% of ridership since 2008. That's without trying. So we're looking at, we have the largest increase of any community in Northeast Ohio without trying. And we do think that there's potential. If you look at the statistics that are being touted right now, air travel overall is declining. And even before United pulled out of Cleveland Hopkins, they were looking at a 31% decrease. So this is an opportunity. It is an opportunity right now. All the data demonstrates for every $1 invested in rail transportation, there are $3 in economic development to the community. There's a higher net fiscal benefit for local government to invest in rail systems than road improvements. And the return of passenger rail in downtown Elyria would result in more visitor traffic, more patronage, and demand for more downtown amenities like shops, restaurants, hotel, the arts, and more. So, you know, the power of this, we need a catalytic change to be able to jumpstart our downtown. And I really believe that this has the potential of doing it. And I'm very hopeful that we can work together with our partners and our MPOs to do this collective Northeast Ohio corridor project. The monies that are available, the overall cost of the project varies. Norfolk Southern has made some decisions about what their minimal requirements are. And basically, if we were to renovate these passenger platforms, we'd have to renovate it so that we could still run freight trains at the same time, because economically it would be damaging for the community. So the one given is we have to be able to figure out how to do both. And when the original cost estimates came in for this project, it was between $5 and $6 million to make this improvement in Lorain County. Now with that added requirement, it may be closer to $9 or $10 million. And so an individual application which requires a 20% match is much harder. What we found out in this conversation about the corridor is if we do it collectively, we think we can leverage money from the Ohio Turnpike Commission as the match. And so it will lower the match requirements of local communities and counties. And you know, 630,000 people travel the Chicago to East Coast line every year. That's the equivalent of a dozen 747s filling it every year, every week. And it's most of us don't pay attention to it, but the bottom line is this has real potential, so we're really going to push hard for this, and hopefully we can make it happen. Other downtown improvements, we have removed the crumbling former City Hall on Broad Street and replaced it with green space. Talmer Bank, which is the bank that just purchased First Place Bank, was kind enough to donate the property behind that site back to the city. And so we have a beautiful, clean site with both properties front and back for parking, and the city will be issuing an RFP to redevelop the property. And we're obviously going to do that with the most catalytic project in mind to try to jumpstart economic development in downtown Elyria. Excuse me. We have been working with a national restaurant chain to finalize a building plan for a new restaurant on Broad Street. While I'm not at liberty to announce who it is, I will tell you that the city has approved their site plan, so it appears it is moving forward, and there are offers on all the properties. So we're anticipating, unless something happens that we don't know about, is that those properties between Muni Court and Wigland on that side of Broad Street will begin to disappear in the spring of 2014. It's some of the most challenged real estate in the city of Elyria. I don't think any of us are going to miss it. And by the way, as a caveat, I'm into preserving old buildings. So we're not trying to knock down the city of Elyria. It's downtown. That being said, I'm all about knocking down some of those buildings. And I see the judge agrees over there. He looks at it every day. So we're anxious about that. We anticipate seeing that building project in 2015, but the buildings should be coming down in the next few months. We did condemn the Cush building, and the land bank funds from the county did demolish that a few weeks ago. And then again, I did speak earlier about our new partnership with the Urban Land Institute and working hard to try to market some of those commercial properties downtown. We did have a small step forward in terms of locating some vitality in our downtown. We do have a new partnership with Lorraine Arts Council. We were able to open up the Elyria Art Depot over the holidays, and it's located in the former Brandeau Jeweler building. We hope it's a seed for a larger arts community initiative in our downtown. We do have a mixed-use strategy emerging in our market analysis for downtown, but we think the arts is part of that. And we currently have in that public space, we have 12 working artists. It's a combination of a gallery, a gathering space, and studio space for these artists. If you're looking for a unique gift and you haven't been in there, please go, because there's some really cool stuff. They've got everything from paintings, drawings, printings, photography, digital art, wearable fabric, beading, metal sculpting, pottery, weaving, you name it, it's there. And this is a collaboration between myself, the building owner, and the Lorraine Arts Council. And we're excited about it, and we hope it will grow. We did have a video here, but you don't have sound, so you don't get to hear it. But these are some of our new business startups in 2013 for the city of Elyria. I'm happy to report that the Hampton Inn, which opened up, is absolutely booming, and they couldn't be more thrilled. Interestingly enough, they have been able to capitalize on a lot of national and international business that had been taking placements in Cuyahoga County for hotel reservations. And so they have been able to capitalize on that and are very excited about it. And they are one of those businesses who are contemplating expansion in that area. As you can see, we had some other smaller businesses. We've got business expansions, including Elyria Recycling, which was one of the larger ones. Elyria Foundry was still recouping from the fire. And we've got underway in 2014 the major expansion of the LCC physical science remodeling and 2 new businesses. And there are 3 pending developments that are not public yet, but they will, we have been working with them on site plans for Broad Street, Chestnut Commons, and the Midway area. And we're hopeful that they will come to fruition sometime next year. Obviously, we have some challenges. We're still experiencing the downward decline of revenue into the city from some layoffs, the Equity Trust departure, general industries, which I'll talk about, the many vacant commercial properties. Main Street Elyria is in transition. The organization is moving more towards promoting activities in the city, and you'll see the city of Elyria taking a more of a leadership role in terms of economic development focus with dedicated personnel and structure. We are in the process of looking at creating a community improvement corporation that will qualify us for some of the state money that we currently do not qualify for in terms of microloans and other things to help small business. So, you know, it's something that we feel we need to do as a city. We feel as though we can't wait. The much publicized general industries. We took that on as a major project. While we don't have a legal requirement, I felt as though we had a moral requirement on behalf of the city. The city does not own the property, but we have been working to try to address it and have made some inroads. It's a long process, but all of these steps are necessary before we get to the end result, which we hope is the redevelopment of the property. We have hired an environmental attorney. We completed a surface assessment that shows that we've got about $460,840 of work yet to do in terms of just surface remediation before we get underground. We convinced the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to conduct a Phase 1 environmental. We convinced the Ohio Development Services Agency and Jobs Ohio to set aside the last $200,000 out of the Clean Ohio Fund for a Phase 2 environmental. They are closing out the Clean Ohio Fund, and we got all the rest of the money earmarked for the city of Elyria for this Phase 2 environmental assessment. In anticipation of next steps after these assessments, the city of Elyria has applied for a brownfield grant, and we've made 9 additional requests for financial assistance. So We are pulling out every stop on this. I will tell you, we wish we could do it faster, but this is as fast as it can be done. The city of Elyria cannot take on the liability of this property without knowing what's underneath it, and neither can anybody else. So we're hopeful that all these steps will lead to some additional conversations with government agencies regarding the cleanup. We have been in very close conversation with Jobs Ohio, and basically, if we can demonstrate that we can create significant good-paying jobs on that property, Jobs Ohio has said they will step forward with some additional funds. So they are part of this conversation. We are in conversation with the adjacent neighboring businesses, and I will tell you that there is some interest in expansion of some of those businesses. So we do think we're on the right track. It's probably going to take about 36 months to go from beginning to end on this, but we're moving, we believe, in the right direction. The property owner is cooperating with us. He's given us access agreements to the property to do the environmental assessments, and he's actually offered to donate the property either to a city or a third-party agent. So those were all requirements for this project to move forward. Making Elyria safer. Obviously, this is a top priority for us. Excuse me. And I will point out I made an error here. I do know how to subtract, but apparently not yesterday. So the one thing that I would like to highlight here is that we all know that Elyria, like many municipalities across Northeast Ohio, is experiencing problems with drugs. And it's not just indicative of our community. It's all over the country. It's all over Northeast Ohio. But there is one positive note here, and if you look at the number of burglaries this past year compared to the previous year, they're down about 31%. And we know that there's a direct connection between burglaries and drug use. And we're doing some things in the city of Elyria that we think are beginning to make a difference in this area, and I'd like to talk about those. You can see some of the stats here. Not up too much, but up a little bit. What we're doing about it. In March of this year, myself and the police chief made a decision to reconfigure the budget process a little bit and reinstitute the Elyria Narcotics and Neighborhood Impact Unit. And that unit had experienced a layoff for, 2 years prior to that. And basically what happens when you don't have a narcotics unit for 2 years is the bad guys get a handle on your community. So we were able to reinstitute that. There were more arrests last year and more neighborhood referrals through the expanded and better trained block watches. We've been spending a lot of time educating our block watches, having them share best practices, because we've got 11 great block watches in the city of Elyria. And these citizens, I can't say enough about them. But as we began to work more closely with them, we're getting a better communication between the city and them, and I do believe that this has had a very positive impact and has actually allowed us to prevent some of the burglaries that were a result of this problem. In addition to being, having a little bit more manpower focused in the neighborhoods, and there were more arrests last year, so we're catching more of the bad guys. But we do have new crime analysis software that's identifying trends, and we're actually sharing that with our block watches. And then obviously we continue to work with the Lorain County Drug Task Force, the U.S. Marshal, and all those other organizations out there, because we can't do it by ourselves. This is a quote I just included by a resident. She sent a note to one of our officers about how her brother passed away from a heroin overdose, and that she was so disheartened about seeing drugs come into our community, but she's observed the work of the narcotics unit and just really wanted to thank our officers. And I'd like to thank our officers too. We've got, obviously Police Chief Whiteley and Officer Constantino, who heads up the unit. If you would stand, because this is your direct defense. I go to bed worrying about this guy every night. And it's a big job. Captain Constantino has a sergeant, 5 detectives that comprise his unit. They focus on violent neighborhood crime, and they're the city's major drug interdiction for heroin, powder cocaine, crack cocaine, methamphetamines, prescription medication abuse, and marijuana. And you've probably read about our Narcan pilot program, which is saving lives. It reverses life-threatening narcotic drug overdoses. Here's some pretty amazing statistics, but if you look at this since March, the narcotics detectives have made 220 drug and felony warrant arrests and have issued 55 citations, conducted 76 undercover buys that have resulted in the arrest of 82 drug dealers. 82 drug dealers. Seized a street value of over $900,000 in illegal drugs, confiscated 45 firearms, including assault rifles, executed 20 search warrants that were a direct result of undercover drug operations, and seized 16 vehicles, 3 motorcycles, and $140,000 in U.S. currency from drug dealers. Some of these are big, scary operations. And I'm not saying this to be a downer. I'm saying it to make sure that you understand the seriousness of this and why we need manpower or woman power behind this problem. These are some of the major investigations that we've been involved in, but we worked with the FBI and it led to charges in human sex trafficking and conspiracy to traffic heroin and cocaine. This second one, a joint drug investigation with the FBI, led to the arrest of 2 major cocaine distributors with ties to the Sinaloa Mexican drug cartel. This is Elyria, Ohio. Made 4 arrests that stopped the manufacturing of methamphetamines at Norfolk Southern Railroad, and we all knew about the situation this fall in October, but they were able to make 18 arrests in Operation Street Sweeper. The much publicized problems that we had over a weekend with 21 opiate-related overdoses in Elyria, I will say that we responded very quickly, made controlled drug buys of what ended up being China White or the acetylfentanyl, and seized over 30 grams of this substance, and in the weeks subsequent to that resulted in the arrest of 6 known drug dealers and large quantities of drugs, money, and guns. So these guys are on top of it, but we don't have enough of them. To their credit, I talked about earlier that we're trying to raise standards in the city of Elyria. Our EPDs becoming voluntarily certified. They came to us and said, we want to do this, by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. Basically, it's the gold standard. It adopts national standards and best practices, and there are only 7% of law enforcement agencies in the United States are CALEA accredited. So it will make Elyria's police department one of the elite police departments in Elyria. We know it will help with recruitment and retention. We know that it helps with available grant money. Obviously, the most important thing, it's going to make the operation more efficient and effective in its service to the community. So I'm very proud that they're willing to take these steps. It will take about 3 years. One of the challenges we have is that we're not in full force. We're funded for 85 officers right now, but we only have 73. And one of the reasons for that is that the city of Elyria had not kept its Civil Service Commission list up to date. We have now reinvigorated the list, and we're in the process of hiring, which takes months if you don't know that process. But we've done that. We've also adopted what we call a lateral transfer pool to allow the city to hire trained officers, which saves us time and money. We don't have to pay to have them retrained. That's not to say we don't still recruit officers from our local community. We do. But we're also looking at recruiting more seasoned people who already have the investment made in them. They did earn the AAA Gold Safety Award from AAA this past year with the support of engineering, street, and communications departments for reducing the number of traffic accidents in the city of Elyria. Our fire department, a very busy department as well, 3,749 responses. We have entered, we have a joint quality improvement board. It's a partnership with Life Care Ambulance and University Hospital Elyria Medical Center to improve coordination of EMS delivery, monitoring of care, direct performance improvement measures. And we think that's going to be highly beneficial to our community. We have become a continuing education site. We've achieved accreditation for EMS education, allowing the city to reduce some costs. And we are transitioning to advanced life support, which will allow our fire department to provide the highest level of care to citizens experiencing life-threatening emergencies until the arrival of Life Care Ambulance. These are some of the different fires that we responded to. Obviously, so blessed that no one in that Columbia Avenue explosion actually lost their life. But if you experience, I live on the north side of town, and I felt it in my kitchen that day. And that's several miles away. So a rapid response, over $500,000 of damage, but fortunately no loss of life there. An apartment fire on East River, unfortunately another blaze at Elyria Foundry, and another lucky happenstance that no one was killed in the car that was slammed into the Boys and Girls Club. Fire department does 86 public education programs. They do fire extinguisher training, so if you have a business and your employees could benefit from it, we'd be happy to do it for you. And these guys care about the community. This past winter, they provided winter coats to 450 Elyria elementary kids, and it was much needed and appreciated. They're a value-added department too. And you know, a lot of us have been reading about the impact of frazzle ice and what happens to water supplies when frazzle ice gets into pipes, but we don't have that in Elyria, largely in part because we have a fire department dive system that makes sure that our pipes are clear in Lake Erie. And the city used to have to contract this service out. It costs about $30,000 annually. Instead, we're just having our divers do it. So a lot of people don't know we are, I believe, the first water plant on Lake Erie and one of the oldest, but we do a good job of maintaining it. We are working on recalibrating some of the services in our fire department. We are streamlining EMS. You may have read about that. We're focusing on getting to the most serious emergencies in the shortest amount of time while placing more responsibility on life care. We're adjusting our equipment response to reduce and maximize efficiency. We're studying options to respond quicker to the needed equipment through hazardous waste and technical rescue situations. And finally, we're collaborating with the EPD to develop a tactical medic team to provide immediate care to injured police officers and civilians in SWAT team operations, as well as shooter incidents. So we hope that will give us a more strategic approach. Our law department's a very busy department, and Mr. Saracen wanted me to make sure we highlighted that they have they've handled 2,000 more cases in 2012, or had a 16% increase compared to last year. Handling 14,946 cases. You can see the data here. I won't read it all, but one of the things I'd like to say is the law department's been extremely helpful to us in terms of major litigation and pursuing some of the nuisances and revocation of liquor licenses in the city of Elyria, including the closures of Shopway and Cush. So they are a team approach with our both our fire and our police departments, and very critical to moving Elyria forward. You'll see at your tables we have a new recycling program in the city of Elyria that's funded through Lorraine County Solid Waste. So if you have any questions about recycling in Elyria, hopefully you'll get your answers from the brochure. We have citizens participating in commercials on cable TV, and they've had a lot of fun doing that. Billboards, we have yard waste bags, and you'll be seeing some new trash and recycling containers as a result of grant funds in our community. One of our major initiatives in strengthening our neighborhoods is taking down distressed residential properties, and we have been able to use money through the Lorraine County Land Bank, leveraged through the Attorney General's office. So far we've taken down 108 residential properties. We have 75 additional properties that are waiting demolition. We've handled 478 property maintenance complaints, and our building department has responded to 33 board ups and high grass complaints. It's important for us to maintain these vacant properties because they do harbor criminal activity, and we're trying to do the best we can to do that. Our community development department is also focusing on neighborhood revitalization through emergency home repairs, home rehabilitations, our fair housing, counseling, and marketing. And we've got about $600,000 in funds that have gone into various neighborhood level improvements. In terms of Block Watch, we talked a little bit about this, but this is an important strategy. We've worked with our Block Watch leaders. We had a summit in March. We went through an overview of crime analysis data and trend information. We provided speakers on best practices from a Columbus area Block Watch, the Attorney General's office, and the police department. Then they shared best practices with each other, and then that really began a dialogue about how the city can better serve our Block Watches. And we've been trying to do that this past year. At their request, we did work with them to come up with some literature to help pass out to aspiring Block Watch leaders who want to create Block Watches. We'll be working with them. We worked with the EPD on a monthly crime reporting tool, so they're getting just-in-time information. We will be having another citywide meeting in May of 2014. So if you want more information about your Block Watch or would like to start one, please look for that. And then we will be working with our regional media partner, Channel 5. They'll be covering us as we try to grow our Block Watch program. And we're hoping that the publicity will help encourage other people to do this. Another strategy, we've got all these vacant properties. Now, what do you do with them? Not only are we using land bank money, but we have what they call NSP, neighborhood stabilization money, when we're taking down some of these properties. One way to temporarily address the situation is community gardens. This past year, we had 8 community gardens. We worked with volunteers to do a rental property registration that we hope to at least begin implementing this year. And then we'll be having a second Building Better's neighborhood to make some property improvements through voluntary contributions. These are just some of the gardens. Feral cats. I know Greg Wiley's here. One of the concerns in our neighborhoods is the vast number of feral cats. And I'm an animal lover, so we were looking for a humane alternative, and we found it. We have a new partnership with the Lorraine County Friendship APL. We've been able to leverage funds, an initial grant from the PetSmart National Headquarters for $35,000. We instituted a pilot program this December, and we see full implementation by the spring of 2014. But this is a service to the community, and people are responding very positively. And even the Lake Erie, the Crushers got involved and sponsored our Cash for Kitties night too, so that was fun. Equal opportunity, we do lots of work. Martin Luther King Holiday Commission, our annual housing fair, and our ADA Spring Conference at LCC. Lots of infrastructure projects. We saw the Lake Erie Avenue project at $236,000, the West River pavement ceiling project from 57 to Griswold Road, and we improved 12 streets in the community as well this past summer. Our street department's busy maintaining 409 miles of highway, 187 two-lane roads. They provide all the in-house service. We don't subcontract out any of this work, so it does save the city quite a bit of money. Ford Road Bridge. Finally, we completed the project 4 months ahead of schedule on budget. It's $3.1 million project from Ohio Municipal Bridge Program funds and Ohio Public Work funds. It replaces the 2-span 1-lane Pony Truss Bridge that was built in 1953, and it really is a huge improvement. If you haven't had a chance to drive over it, it's very scenic and beautiful. And I got to be the first one to drive over the bridge, so that was a lot of fun. A lot of you have asked me about the East Fall Rivers Walk with all the construction down there. Excuse me. The sewer collapsed actually underneath the river walk, and it caused the collapse of this whole area. So we have been busy fixing that, and it will be open to pedestrians in 2014. We were able to use sewer funds to actually fix that because it was a sewer problem. So if there was anything lucky about being able to fix it, it was that the sewer collapsed. These are some of the major engineering projects, and as you know, Elyria is an old city. We have lots of infrastructure challenges, including some unfunded mandates, but we just completed our stormwater utility management program design, and that will be rolling out in 2014. The cascade siphon and bottleneck improvements, you've seen some of these gravity sewers being built, and it did not only allow us to make improvements to that whole area, but we were also able to restore about 1,000 feet of the Black River stream bank. And if you haven't had a chance to walk down to Cascade Park, it's actually very beautiful. So it's not only functional, but beautiful. We had an emergency sewer repair requirement down on Washington Avenue, and I know everybody's glad that that's done. And we've actually had repairs of 30 sanitary sewers and laterals in 2013. The final plans for all of these projects have been complete, and the one I want to focus on most is the rehabilitation of Middle Avenue from Oberlin Road to Broad Street. This is a major project that we're able to do with grant money. It's part of our neighborhood revitalization intent, and that is we want to improve a major site into the city on Middle Avenue. So you will see the entire rehabilitation of Middle Avenue this year. And that will include repair of the pavement, new asphalt service, new curbs, raised boulevard medium, traffic signals, street lights, bike lanes, you name it. Water main replacements, have had a lot of water issues, and we will see water main replacement projects in Eastern Heights, St. Jude's, and Furnace Street areas beginning this spring. We just completed a thoroughfare plan. We hadn't done that since 1972. Basically, this allows the city to make sure that we have the efficient movement of traffic. Here's why we needed to do it. I mean, a lot of people say, why do you need one more plan? Well, if we don't have this plan on the shelf, and if it's not modern and it's not current, we don't qualify for money in the city of Elyria. So we now have an up-to-date thoroughfare plan that will allow us to qualify for even more federal and state infrastructure dollars. And these are simply ideas. We adopted them. It doesn't mean we have to do all of them. Some of them make sense. Some of them we probably want to adjust, but it was a necessary process. Very quickly, our water purification plant on Lake Erie has gone through a number of upgrades, including installing a shutoff system on our lead detectors. This is all grant money, replacing low service pumps. We're undergoing an overall $8 million renovation of that plant. We continue to sell more water to our neighbors. And most people don't realize how much water we pump out of there, but 4,622,930,000 gallons of water are pumped out of that plant annually. That's a lot of water. If you have sympathy for any department in the city, please have sympathy for the water distribution department. I got a crew of 8, maintains 231 miles of water mains and distribution lines that are 50 to 75 years old. In January of 2013, there were 51 water main breaks in 1 month, January. During the recent polar vortex, when it was 40 degrees below zero, we had 14 water main breaks in one weekend. So if you think you're having a bad day, go visit one of these guys, because they've got a job on their hands. They really do. But again, we are trying to take some steps moving forward to remediate these. And again, you'll see improvement projects completed in 2014 are underway to help alleviate some of these water main problems, including the Griswold Road water main replacement, Pikewood water main, and water line replacements this year in Eastern Heights, St. Jude's, and Furnace Street areas. Our wastewater treatment plant has acquired some new equipment to also help. We have new camera trucks and portable push cameras. So you know about endoscopic surgery. This is basically a way to do endoscopic surgery on your sewer pipes and other pipes in the city. It makes it much more cost effective, and we actually do it as a public service to residents. Even if it's your problem, we'll come in and look at your pipes through one of these scopes and help you know what the remedy is before you spend a lot of money on a plumber. Our cemeteries, just briefly, a lot of people don't know, Elyria has 3 cemeteries. Some of our original pioneers are buried in Ridgelawn Cemetery, including a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient, Ambassador to France, and of course, our Easter Seal Society founder, Edgar Fisk Allen. Rotary is going to be working with the city to develop a historic marker for Mr. Allen this year. And just as a side note, our cemeteries, we do the best we can with the money we have, but we do have about $330,000 in immediate cemetery capital improvement needs and an overall $1.7 million in long-term needs. So if any of your service organizations are looking for more long-term projects, we have them in our cemeteries. In 2013, we did other improvements in our cemeteries, some road work. We had 207 burials. Quickly, our health department, very busy department. They do all these services, adult and childhood immunizations, our travel clinic, dental sealant program. We have a new lead abatement program. April 7th through the 14th, they'll be sponsoring a family health fair. They are working with a committed group of African American women to reduce African American infant mortality here in Lorain County. You may have seen their Safe Sleep billboard campaign. And we have applied for a local government fund to explore the feasibility of merging the Lorain and Elyria health departments, and we're waiting for that decision very shortly. Many of you in this room have participated. Even with our budget cuts, we've been able to raise money to provide Reach and Rise Discovery Camps free of charge to 847 children over the summer. And you'll be glad to know that your money's been well spent, because the program won the second place in the state of Ohio for the best Parks and Recreation program for 2013. So let's give our Parks and Recreation Department a hand. A lot of work. But we couldn't do it without our partners. We have 14 nonprofit education and government partners and 11 funders. These are our partners. These are all nonprofit organizations that work with the city to do the programming. These are our funders. If you're one of them, thank you. We will be asking you again this year. And if I don't forget, you've got some donation forms on your table as well. But as you can see, it gives kids lots of opportunities. They go to museums. Here's some pictures. There's a combination of indoor and outdoor activities. And there's just something for everybody. We even made a tour out of one of our graveyards. So I thought that was pretty cool. Our Parks and Recreation Department, we've tried to spend a lot of time revitalizing them. They'd gone through lots of cuts. They served 11,000 kids last year, offered 29 youth programs, 71 adult softball teams, including 3 girls fast pitch tournaments, which, by the way, is an economic development driver. It was over a couple thousand visitors in the city of Elyria over one weekend. It filled up every restaurant and hotel in the area. It's not just for young people, it's for the active people too. And I noticed when I was writing this that I'm one of the active people now. I don't know how that happened. But we have 7 pavilions and we rent all those out. We had 10 lunchtime concerts scheduled. We had a lot of rain this summer, so we ended up with 7. Even with our budget cuts, people donated over $98,000 to keep our quality of life programming going in the city of Elyria. These are just some of the things that we worked with these various organizations to help sponsor. You may see yourself in some of these pictures. Our forestry division completed 60 trims. They received a $30,000 grant from ODNR to remove the rest of the ash trees. We're about 90% done with that. And these are some of the other organizations that our Parks and Recreation Department helps support, including the Taste of South and a lot of our soccer associations and our football and baseball leagues in the community. So lots of community interaction. We celebrated our 50th anniversary of North Park Ice Arena, and we finalized and signed the 50-year lease agreement for the Lorain County Metro Parks to maintain and operate with city input Cascade Park and Eelywood Park. So we're looking forward to working with the Metro Parks on this project, and I know Mr. Zemenik and I have already had some conversations about how great it's going to be, so we're really looking forward to it. Mayor's Office on Volunteer Engagement worked with parks. We reopened Finwood again, had over 80,000 visitors, 250,000 lights. We collected food for our area food pantries, and again, this is done at no cost. These are our partners. We were able to add some programming this Christmas. We want to make sure that every child in Elyria has an opportunity to have a great holiday season. So we had petting zoos and storybook giveaways and all kinds of things, and it was really a lot of fun. Ice sculpting, and we hope to grow that again this coming year. And again, this is all done with philanthropic support. City Hall was a busy place. We did open City Hall up for movies and books and book giveaways and all kinds of things. And I especially like the yak. But again, these are individuals, and there were lots of other individuals. I just couldn't list everybody. But we work on Pride Day. Pride Day is coming up, so if you need a service project, we do work with this Church of the Open Door and others, and 450 volunteers converge on the city to do plantings in May. We'll be doing community gardens again. We will be doing some image building in the city of Elyria. We have a grant for new entrance signage. And it's got a unique feature. It touts both present and past accomplishments on it. So it's interchangeable. And if your organization has a prominent past accomplishment or a present one, let us know and we'll try to get it on the list here. We will be publishing a new Elyria magazine with Image Builders Marketing. So if you would like to be part of that, we are going to be publishing a regional magazine to try to get Elyria more on the radar screen at no cost to the city. It's all supported by advertising. So if you'd like to get involved, please call 440-823-1908. We are going to be rebuilding the city website this year. And I want to add, our clergy and other representatives of the community came to me, and there is a National League of Cities model for compassionate cities, and they have asked the city of Elyria to adopt the compassionate cities model. City Council, one of our committees passed that the previous night, and Elyria will become a compassionate city. And basically, that just talks about our city using a lens in our decision making to be compassionate towards our citizens. And one of their first projects is a resource center on Broad Street. So lots of community interaction. We do have Mayor's Night In every first Thursday of each month. Focus on customer service, regular communications. If you haven't seen our cable TV show, it's on Channel 12 and it runs a lot. We have community-based dialogue sessions, and in this year we'll be updating our strategic plan. So there will be a series of community forums scheduled in the community, and we will be completing our community report card. So you will be able to measure our progress on the performance audit and other measures on our website, and watch how we're doing. We do, again, have lots of ways you can help. On your table you have a yellow sheet. And I would just ask, these are things, obviously, that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise if we didn't have philanthropic contributions. These are all things that the city relies on philanthropic contributions to help advance, whether it's camps, outfitting the auxiliary police, summer concert. We'd really like to resurrect the fireworks in the city of Elyria. And if there's anybody in this room that would like to work on a fireworks committee, I wish you would come see me personally, because we are working on that right now. It's not something we can spend city money on, but it seems like there's momentum building for that, and if we can get it done in time, we will try to do that this year. We will be doing community gardens again, and all these other projects. You probably saw our emergency shelter initiative with our faith-based community, and voluntary contributions help pay for that as well. So lots of need out there, but I will tell you, Elyria is full of lots of kind people, and we've never been more proud, and we've never been more determined to help advance this city, and I know with your help we can do it. So I know it was long and I apologize, but there's an awful lot to say.